Welcome to Focus Washington. I'm Chuck Conconi. My guest today is Cardinal Theodore McCarick, the former Archbishop, or I guess we call you Archbishop Emeritus of Washington, and a counselor for the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Cardinal, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chuck. I'm happy to be back with you after many years.
It's good to see you again. I recently attended, and I'll have to read this off because it's such a complicated title, the King Abdullah bin Abdulaziz International Center for Interreligious and Intercultural Dialogue in Athens, Greece. And one of the things that stood out was the diminishing number of Christians in the Middle East. And for example, I think they said that the population, New York Times said the population there was declined from 14% to about 4%. Now, does that mean that there's some future date that Christians will not be able to survive or exist in the Middle East?
Unless we can turn it around, it does. The number has been diminishing for many reasons. I think the Arab Spring did not help it. I think a lot of us thought it would. A lot of us thought the Arab Spring would bring a more peaceful economy, a more peaceful political life to those countries. Unfortunately, one Arab prince said to me, "It's going to be the Arab autumn, the Arab fall." And I'm afraid he was right in a great extent. Sure, a lot of things have happened better, but as you read it and look at it and consider it, I'm afraid that in some, we have more trouble now than we had before, for everybody.
Well, it's not only just Christians, obviously, but what can be done? I mean, I know you're involved in international discussions like this. What can be done to protect minority groups in that part of the world?
Well, it's interesting. Even today at the National Cathedral, we had a meeting at which the new American ambassador for religious freedom, David Saperstein, spoke. And he had just come back from some long trips in the Middle East. And I think there were Muslims there, there were Christians there, there were Jains and Sikhs, and I knew most of them because so many of us are involved in this sort of constantly. But I think what is happening is that they are not anymore feeling at home. Their neighbors who were their friends are now, because of political pressure, or pressure from the media, or pressure from the preachers in the mosques or other agencies that will affect them. They don't feel at home. They feel that they are that they're going to be pushed out. They feel that they're not comfortable, and then it goes deeper. That's the first stage. The second stage is worse. The second stage is when they are told to get out, when they are threatened by irresponsible people to say, "You don't belong here." And of course, with the Christians, it's sort of unfortunate because they were here before Islam.
That's right. Well, religious leaders always talk about dialogue, and the dialogue is just dialogue, or is that the starting point? Is there more that religious leaders can do?
Well, years ago, I developed a formula for dialogue, and I use it all the time. So forgive me if I pull it on you too.
Please.
The first stage of dialogue is when you're talking to somebody. And that's the first stage, because the second stage is when you're talking with somebody. It's so easy to talk to other people. Don't pay attention whether they're listening to you or not. But there has to be, a dialogue has to involve two people. And so that the second stage is a conversation with somebody. So you're talking with someone. The third stage is when you keep doing this and you begin to understand what they're talking about. Oftentimes we talk to people and we don't know where they're coming from, they don't know where we're coming from, and you don't reach a common ground. The fourth stage, therefore, would be when you come, after understanding, you come to appreciate what they're saying. And of course, when you appreciate them, then you can come to cooperate with them. So we're in so many areas of the world today, we're in one or other of those stages, and unfortunately, we're not there are not too many of us who are in the stage of appreciating other people, and therefore we don't cooperate.
Well, there's a necessity to do something. It's very volatile now. Pope Francis has been a very successful pontiff.
Thanks be to God,
both
yes.
know. And does he need to take much more of a leadership role in this area?
Well, I think ultimately he probably will have to, because we all try to do something, but no one has the authority, or to speak more personally, or the personal power, which in the case of Pope Francis is not just a power. It's a personality that gives you to want to.
A charisma.
There's a charisma. That's what I'm looking for. It's a charisma, and I think that's a gift that he has. I think it's a gift that the church can give to the world through this man in our time. But there's nobody else who can do that. There are some wonderful leaders, Patriarch Bartholomew and many others in the Christian community, and among the Muslims there's King Abdullah himself, and a number of others who are very much involved in trying to get everybody together. But no one seems to have the ability that Pope Francis has to talk to everybody.
So he should take the leadership. I mean, it's dialogue is one thing. As I repeat the question, is what specifically would you suggest the religious and the Pope and other religious leaders, patriarchs and Muslim leaders?
Well, we have to talk together. I have been, I guess, at 7 or 8 meetings throughout the Middle East, in Armenia, in Lebanon, in Egypt, in Jordan, in so many of these countries, and every time, oftentimes you meet the same people, but that's all right, because they may have different ideas now as they get older, and then as they talk to other leaders who begin to widen this wealth of interest and wealth of concern.
But then they have to move beyond just other religious leaders. They have to move into the political realm.
Yeah, and that, of course, is very hard, because in some countries, say like in ours, the political system it sort of shies away from the religious system. In other cases, say in Saudi Arabia, it's just the opposite.
That's right.
The political system is governed by the religious system, so that you have all kinds of different frames of reference, all kinds of different understandings of what you are doing, what someone else can do. And meanwhile, while all this is happening, it's getting worse.
Let me ask one quick last question, because we're running out and switching it a little bit. I read recently that 1 in 5 Catholic parishes does not have a resident priest. What's going to be done to attract more young men to the priesthood?
Well, that's another great question, but that has a better answer, that things are changing. Things are changing. An example, in the North American College in Rome, which is sort of the West Point of our seminaries, it had gone down to having about 90 men in the house. There are now almost 300 in the house. And that is not totally without repercussion throughout the Catholic world, throughout the Catholic world in the United States. The more vocations are coming, more men and more sisters. I live with the community, the Institute of the Incarnate Word, founded in Argentina about 30 years ago. And today, they have about 28 parishes in the United States. All over the world, they must have 400 priests, and they must have something like 1,000 nuns. And the group in the United States, the priests, they have about 50 seminarians studying. But the women now have about 200 women in the United States, and 80% of them are Americans. So here in our country, we're seeing a change. We're seeing a vitality. Now, this is a special community. They have a charism, and they attract people. But it's not only going to be them, but others will come. And I think we are seeing now, and under the leadership of Pope Francis in a very special way, we are seeing now a flowering of the Catholic Church once again.
Cardinal McCarick, thank you so much for being here. I hope we can do this again sometime
I
soon.
look forward to it. Thank you.
I'm Chuck Anconi, and this has been Focus Washington.